Hey folks, it's Lobo, and today we have some more news about Batman, specifically the Batman and its seemingly endless growing universe. And I'm sorry if I'm I sound a little weird because I'm trying to elevate my voice because I kind of sound like this right now, unfortunately. It's because I have my little post-work nap, that's why, so I'm a little bit groggy. I mean, I just woke up like 5 minutes ago, and I checked my phone, I'm like, there's some Batman news about the Penguin having his own show, so we're gonna further investigate here. So we have this by Variety, so it's confirmed, like this is official. This isn't some person's nonsense of a rumor, because I don't deal in rumors. So it says here, again, this is Variety, the Batman spin-off series about Penguin in early development at HBO Max. If you already know, there's one about, its title is unconfirmed, the GCPD series, which a lot of people, it's sort of being geared as the Jim Gordon show, and then this is obviously the Penguin show. Another thing about the GCPD series, it's a prequel to the Batman movie that takes Batman is Batman year 2, meaning the Batman takes place in year 2 of his career. Well, as Matt Reeves described, more 1 year and a half, which is still year 2. But the GCPD series is a prequel before that. As Matt Reeves said, we go back to year 1. But then this series, I'm sure we'll find out, but I don't know, it might be too early. But anyway, Joe Barden is doing the GCPD show. They lost Terrence Winter over sort of creative differences. I mean, that's a big loss. He's a fantastic writer, but I trust Matt Reeves, and he wants to make sure it's in line with his vision, because I don't think he's a director, but obviously he's producing and overseeing that, so I imagine the same for this. It says HBO Max is developing a series about the Penguin that will be a spin-off The Batman feature. Variety has learned from sources. Colin Farrell is set to play the notorious supervillain in The Batman. According to sources, Farrell has been approached to star in the spin-off series, but no deal is currently in place. Okay. I'm surprised they're reporting this. Sources also say that Lauren LaFranc, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, is attached to write the script for the project, which is in its very early stages. This character right here, I can't say she sounds familiar. I'll have to investigate later, because a lot of times it's great writers, but I'm just not accustomed to their work. So this would be my first exposure to this particular screenwriter. The show would supposedly delve into the Penguin's rise to power in the Gotham criminal underworld. That's true, because Matt Reeves for the Batman, it's going to be more grounded. And what he means by that is we're going to have, again, like no superpowered supervillains. Like you wouldn't see Clayface, no Mr. Freeze. Not yet. I mean, there's a lot of cool Easter eggs that point towards these sort of superpowered beings. But he also stated that there's such an influence from the comic year 1, and that there's never been something quite as grounded as it in terms of a movie. I know when we think about sort of realism and the realistic approach, we always think of the Nolan movies, which is very true. I think that is very grounded, as much as it could possibly be, because there's Two-Face, and obviously I don't think science permits somebody with half their face exposed like that being alive. I know there's a lot of burn victims, but the way Two-Face was a success, I feel like you get an infection there. I'm not going into the science logistics of it, but we had Ra's al Ghul in there, but it's not really his comic version. Like, there's no Lazarus Pit, and he's not centuries old. But it was you still see the characters, but they're just sort of grounded and realistic. I know some people are tired of that approach, and quite frankly, I am too. But I trust Matt Reeves because, as he said, this is going off Batman year 1, the comic. And that focused more on mob bosses and what we know from there. Again, I'm going into the movie a bit more, so what I'm talking about is from set photos as well as what actors have said about their roles. So if you consider that spoilers, then you could just kind of exit out. I just want to say, because I'm going to go into a little bit of explanation there, but with this show, Colin Farrell said in The Batman, he has very short in terms of screen time. He said about 9 minutes, which is substantial, but when you chop it up throughout the film, it's not really a very large role. But with set photos, again, these aren't like leaked set photos. These were when they were shooting in, I think this was the Liverpool set. I know it's Liverpool and Glasgow, but I'm not a great geographer. But there was like the sort of courtroom scene where they all meet, and you could, if you watch the thing, you'll see that there were 3 characters. It's kind of funny. It was like a little reunion. There was Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne was there, Penguin with Carmine Falcone, and Zoe Kravitz, Selena Kyle. But it's really the sort of grouping of Penguin and Carmine Falcone. So they're leaning into Penguin's sort of mob boss type of things. He might actually be his right-hand man for now. At least that's what I was thinking. In sort of the sequels, you'll see him evolve into more of the head guy. But right now, it's Carmine Falcone. Oh, shit, we have more news. I'm sorry if I'm talking all over this, God. No, but just more, as I was saying, that sort of grounded thing, because we know there was the newspaper on the wall in the trailer that said the Maroni drug bust, so Salvatore Maroni. I think another cool Easter egg when you again grounded, like you could do a Black Mask, Roman Sionis type of thing, because again it's more like crime bosses. So it's gonna be weird if they do sort of more superpowered villains in the future. They could, but for now, Matt Reeves wants to keep it sort of in check with, again, the grounded approach. I know that might upset a few people. For an origin story, I'm completely fine with it, but I do hope they expand a little upon it, because we have numerous Easter eggs of Wonder Woman, Flash, Superman. I know a lot of it comes from the costume, but even when you read the we could say Gotham Times, their newspaper, it sort of hints at superpowered beings such as Superman exist in this universe, as a lot of people are coining the Reeves verse, because as I said earlier, it just keeps expanding. But the Penguin, aka Oswald Cobblepot, is one of the most famous members of the Batman's Rogues Gallery. On the live-action side, the character has previously played by actors like Burgess Meredith, Danny DeVito, and Robin Lord Taylor. Yep, obviously Danny DeVito, I feel like, is the most famous, even though for me, because I watched that as a kid, it like grossed me out. It wasn't really comic Penguin, but it was a cool twist, because obviously Tim Burton is very specific in his... I love Tim Burton, by the way, but he just has a very unique approach to things. There's obviously, for comic accuracy, Danny DeVito was not a comic accurate Penguin, but it was very interesting to see nonetheless. And somehow he's become the most iconic. You could say there haven't been that many appearances, but he is the most iconic because of that. Farrell has previously starred in television shows like The North Water and True Detective Season 2. He's best known for his roles in films in Bruges, SWAT, The Lobster, and Seven Psychopaths. He is repped by CAA, names. Elaine, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, Feldman Management, Hansen Jacobson, and Covert Creative. LaFranc most recently served as showrunner on the YouTube premium original series Impulse. Her other TV credits include Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., while another superhero genre, Chuck and Hemlock Grove. She is repped by CAA Grandview and Hansen Jacobson. The Batman is due to hit theaters March 2022. It's March 4th. After being delayed multiple times due to the pandemic, Robert Pattinson has taken up the mantle of the Dark Knight with Zoe Kravitz, Paul Dano, Jeffrey Wright, and Andy Serkis among the film's cast. Should the Penguin show go forward, it would be the second spin-off series. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the streamer has already ordered a drama set within the Gotham Police Department with Joe Barton attached as the showrunner. It's part of Warner Media's attempt to launch a new interconnected Batman universe across all of its platforms. Yeah, so just summarizing here again, they're really doing, as I've said time and again, the Reeves verse. It's this expanding Batman universe. I'm not going to lie, I am surprised by this announcement. Well, it's not an announcement. They said they're working out the deal, but it's like sort of in the early stages of production. I am a little bit shocked by this. Not because there's another installment in the Batman. Well, it kind of could be, because even though he might not be sort of directing or writing the script, Matt Reeves is dealing with, obviously the Batman's finished, but still, I'm sure he has some things to say about post-production, how he wants Gotham to look with CG. Working with the art department, but he has that, the GCPD series again, which is written by Joe Barton, but as a sort of overseer and producer, Matt Reeves is very meticulous, and I'm sure he's making sure it's within his vision. Again, Terrence Winter walked away, not over sort of butting heads with Matt Reeves, but Matt Reeves specifically had something in mind that Terrence Winter was not clicking with him on that. So I trust his instinct, but this too, I feel like he would again oversee. But why I'm surprised by this is because I thought the next sort of spinoff for the Batman would be a Selina Kyle Catwoman series. I'm very surprised by this because we know from, obviously since this is early in the career, that there's sort of where the relationship of Batman and Catwoman, like where is that at? I'm not saying like a romance, but I'm saying she's such an important character in her own right. She has so much depth and story and such that I'm surprised that we're not exploring that further at the moment, because there was always rumors of a Catwoman series, but I really thought that would be the next announcement. Because I'm very interested, because I don't know, because obviously Batwoman and Catwoman, the cat and the bat, have always been this sort of dynamic duo, but they have been romantic at times. But for this movie, I don't anticipate that. I think she's going to be more on her own, because Batman Year One was like that, but I don't think it's going to be as on the nose as that, because that was a bit different. But also with her, we know that they're taking some sort of influence from The Long Halloween, potentially exploring the storyline where Carmine Falcone is her father. We have the slashes on the face. So there's a lot of more comic elements at play with her. As I said, I really thought she'd be the next one, especially with those early screenings of the Batman. If you don't know about that, it's like essentially just regular people, and there were some like obviously higher ups, but regular people got to do an early impressions of the Batman. Those lucky bastards. But they described Zoe Kravitz's performance as really, really good. So with that, and the fact that Selina Kyle in her own right is such a tremendous character with a lot of story, and I don't mean to put like Shrek, but she has a lot of layers and such, I thought she would be explored more. So potentially she could, but if that's true, if she comes at a later date, we have already the Batman and its supposed trilogy, perhaps even more, the GCPD series, this Penguin series, then a Catwoman series. Like, Jesus, bro. That's a lot, man. That is a lot, but the more the merrier. I just hope they're not biting off more than they can chew at the moment. I'm talking about Matt Reeves. Like, I have faith in what he's trying to do, but that's like a lot of work, because he also he's doing other movies. I think he has like a Netflix movie coming out, but he's doing that, overseeing parts of this GCPD series. He did the Batman, and then the Batman Caped Crusader, which arguably is the most difficult, because as a sort of geared towards children, every episode is going to be like, I would assume, a different villain, kind of like Batman the animated series. So Mike, I really hope he's not biting off more than he can chew. I'm sure he's prepared for this. He wants to do it, obviously, if he's agreeing with this. But then also, who's going to write the Batman too? Because he has to do it at some point. So yeah, very interesting with this one. I'm excited, but as I said, it's a bit surprising for me, because GCPD series, I could see that exploring Gotham's police force and Jim Gordon. But Penguin, that's interesting. I know he's a very big comic villain, but not really, because he's always described in most iterations as very short. He's just more of the leader figure rather than do it. As I said, I really thought Selina was going to get her own thing, because she's way more hands-on, can take care of herself type. Very surprising, but I am excited nonetheless, and I'll see more news on this for when actually Colin Farrell signs a deal or whatever. So yeah, we'll see. Let me know, for those of you watching, if you bared through this. I'm sorry. I would have been more concise if I had not just woken up at this point. I probably talked for like 15 minutes, like 20 to 25 minutes ago, if I just didn't wake up. So sorry about that. But yeah, let me know, for those of you watching, your thoughts. Again, if you could keep it as sort of, I'm going to say ominous, but just please don't try to put spoilers there, because I know there's the movie. And not just wreck it for myself, but for others, because that's just, come on, man. But yeah, if you have anything that's sort of if you think it's public information, like I would consider the verified set photos or just what any of the actors have said, that would be great. And I just want to see your opinion because I love talking about Batman. Also, one other thing to note before I mentioned earlier that this was grounded. I'm still interested to see how that plays out because Jeffrey Wright, when he was doing an interview, he said it was grounded in with sort of fantastical elements. I'm like, what does that mean? Because even when you look at Planet of the Apes, the trilogy, it was walking, talking apes with guns, but it was still grounded and gritty. So there's a lot of room for this to work. But as I said, it's just, we'll have to wait and see. So hope you guys enjoyed this one. Again, let me know what you think. And until then, I'll catch you folks in my next video.